It was on a day like no other that I first laid eyes upon him. In the quiet corners of my mind, I whispered to myself that it was merely a fleeting notion, a spark of curiosity that would vanish as swiftly as it had appeared. Yet it did not unfold as expected. Instead, I found myself observing him, truly observing him, in a manner I had never experienced before. He glided through the house, exuding a natural confidence, and his gaze would linger just a moment longer when he believed I was unaware. It was a whisper of a change, so delicate that it danced on the edge of my perception. Yet, once it caught my eye, it became an indelible mark upon my mind, forever altering the way I viewed the world around me. And in a moment of weakness, I found myself glancing back, despite knowing the dangers that lay in that direction. It all began with the tiniest of things. He would often find himself in the kitchen, a silent observer as I prepared the coffee, leaning casually against the counter, that infuriating half-smirk playing on his lips. His gaze followed my every step, a silent observer in the unfolding tale. Though he never spoke a single word, the weight of his silence echoed with a clarity that words could never convey. The atmosphere around us grew heavy with an unvoiced tension, a sense of peril lurking just beneath the surface. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the world, my husband's voice echoed through the phone, reaching me from his office. Once again, the clock struck late and the table lay bare, untouched by the warmth of a meal. By this point, I ought to have grown accustomed to it. Yet the disappointment lingered in my chest, heavy and unyielding, as if it were a stone resting there. As I ended the call, a deep breath escaped my lips, and I wrestled with the solitude that had settled in beside me, an ever-present shadow in my life. It appears that surprise has eluded you. Suddenly, his voice pierced through the silence, catching me off guard. As I pivoted, there he was, framed in the doorway, arms crossed, a familiar glint of understanding dancing in his eyes. I found myself confessing, I am not. In the grand tapestry of life, the threads of duty and responsibility weave a pattern that often places work at the forefront, guiding our actions and decisions with unwavering resolve. He gazed at me intently for what felt like an eternity, and then a sly smirk crept across his face. Alas, what a pity it is. There was a certain magic in his words, a spark that coursed through my veins like electricity. It was not mere sympathy that stirred within. It was an experience unlike any other, one that sent my heart racing with excitement. "You ought not to speak in such a manner," I replied, my voice unwavering and calm. "What might that be, I wonder?" With a steady heart, he drew nearer, his eyes locked in unwavering focus. "It is as if I possess a keen eye for the world around me." With a deep breath, I steeled myself, striving to sever the intense gaze that held me captive. Yet I chose not to. Alas, it was not possible. He possessed an undeniable allure that drew everyone in. A force beckoned me, whispering sweetly, even as the alarms within me blared with urgency. "This is no laughing matter." His smirk grew more pronounced, a mischievous glint dancing in his eyes. Who claimed I was merely jesting? As I turned away, my fingers clutched the edge of the counter, seeking solace in its steady presence. It was clear to me that I had to put a stop to this before it even had a chance to begin. Before that seemingly ordinary moment transformed into something irreversible for both of us. "You know, I believe tonight is the perfect night for you to venture out," I suggested, striving to keep my tone light and carefree. "Gather round and reconnect with your companions. Embrace the joy of the moment." In this very moment, joy dances around me, filling the air with laughter and delight. In that moment, my breath was stolen away. He was serious, no games to be played here. He was relentless, probing the depths of my resolve, eager to discover whether I would resist or surrender to the tide. With a gentle sigh, I released the breath I had been holding. And so the adventure begins. Off you go. In the stillness, a rhythm unfolds, a beat of silence that echoes through the air. And then, A soft chuckle echoed in the stillness. At last, he spoke. All right. Yet, there is a tale you must hear. I turned, and in that moment, I beheld a seriousness in his expression that I had never seen before. His gaze met mine, steadfast and resolute, as if the world around us had faded away. It seems to me that the desire to continue is too strong to resist. Anger should have surged within me. In that moment, I should have summoned the courage to tell him to depart, to cast aside the dark and twisted notions that had taken hold of his thoughts. Yet there I remained, heart racing like a drum in the stillness, my body revealing secrets through a warmth I dared not acknowledge. But what could be more disheartening than this? It never crossed my mind that I would wish to halt this journey. For days on end, I kept my distance from him. In the grand tapestry of decisions, this one stood out as the sole thread of reason, weaving its way through the fabric of possibilities. In the midst of a whirlwind of activity, I found myself occupied with errands and engaging in trivial exchanges with my husband, all in an effort to divert my mind from the unsettling way my body responded to him. Yet, mere avoidance proved insufficient. It never came to be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I ventured outside, seeking the gentle caress of the cool evening breeze to soothe my restless mind. In the quiet embrace of the night, there he stood, bare-chested once more, honing his craft under the soft, flickering light of the backyard lamps. In that moment, a whisper of doubt crept into my mind, urging me to reconsider my path. I should have turned around. It would have been wiser to turn back and step through that door once more. Yet my feet remained still. As I stood there, my breath caught in my throat, captivated by the sight before me. Each movement he made was a dance of strength, his muscles coiling and releasing with a grace that spoke of effortless power. He sensed my gaze upon him. It was in the subtle shift of his pace, the deliberate stretch of his arms, and the graceful roll of his shoulders, as if he were performing for an audience unseen. As he pivoted to meet my gaze, beads of sweat cascading down his chest, that familiar smirk reappeared. "You don't have to hide," he said, reaching for a towel. With a deep breath, I shook my head, as if trying to dispel the weight of the moment. I was not in the shadows, concealing myself from the world. He stepped forward, effortlessly bridging the gap between them. Once upon a time, in a realm where decisions were made with a simple word, there came a moment when the answer was a resolute no. "So, tell me, what compels you to keep on running?" A knot formed in my stomach. This is no mere game. It was never spoken aloud, nor whispered in the shadows. With a voice that flowed like a calm river, steady and measured, he spoke, each word carefully chosen, resonating with purpose. Yet, I sense a whisper of untruth within your own heart. In hindsight, the path I chose was not the wisest. Perhaps I should have turned and walked away. And so, it was decided to bring the tale to a close before it could spiral into something greater. Yet, deep within my soul, a quiet defiance stirred, refusing to yield. Perhaps it was the solitude that whispered to the heart. Perhaps it was the gaze he cast upon me. In a world where I was meant to be merely a shadow, I yearned to be seen as more than just a wife, more than a fleeting presence in a seemingly flawless home. "Halt," I murmured softly. It was not a mere demand. It was a heartfelt cry for help. Yet he pressed on, undeterred. As he extended his hand towards me, his fingers lightly grazed mine, igniting a spark that surged through my arm. My breath stumbled, caught in a moment of uncertainty. In hindsight, I realize I should have turned back, away from the path I chose. There were countless paths I could have taken, choices I could have made, and moments I could have seized. "You feel it too," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, as if sharing a secret meant only for the two of them. With a deep breath, I felt the weight of the moment settle in my throat. Deep within, every fiber of my being cried out, insisting that this was a path fraught with peril. Yet, the way his touch lingered whispered to me that the moment had slipped through our fingers, and it was already too late. With a resounding clap of thunder, the stillness was shattered, echoing through the air like a herald of change. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky transformed, cloaked in a deepening shade of twilight. As the sky opened up, the first drops of rain began to dance upon the earth, splattering joyfully against the ground. I took a step back, feeling my heart race wildly in my chest. "This can't happen," I proclaimed, the words escaping my lips with a weight that felt almost tangible. He chose silence, letting the words hang in the air like a heavy fog, unchallenged and unbroken. There was no necessity for him to do so. In the depths of his gaze, a silent tale unfolded, speaking volumes without uttering a single word. It had already come to pass. With a hesitant step, I turned and entered the room, my hands quivering as I gently shut the door, sealing away the world outside. The rain lashed against the windows, a fierce echo of the tempest that churned within my soul. With a gentle press of my fingers to my lips, I could still feel the faint echo of his touch, a whisper of warmth that refused to fade away. In the depths of my heart, I yearned to cast the blame upon him, to point fingers at his relentless pushing, for stirring emotions within me that I believed were forbidden. Yet, within the depths of my being, the truth whispered softly, waiting to be acknowledged. It was I who had taken up the watch, my gaze fixed and unwavering from the very beginning. Sleep eluded me that night, slipping through my fingers like sand. With each gentle flutter of my eyelids, his touch lingered like a whisper in the wind, his voice echoed softly in my mind, and I could see the way he gazed at me, as if he held the key to all my hidden truths. In the quiet corners of my mind, I whispered to myself that perhaps it was all a figment of my imagination, that the rain's relentless patter and the thick air of tension had woven a tapestry of feelings far more vivid than reality itself. As dawn broke and I descended the stairs, there he was, patiently awaiting my arrival. He remained silent at first, his eyes fixed on me as I poured my coffee, a weight of anticipation hanging in the air between us. The air was heavy with unspoken words, a palpable tension weaving itself between us, thick and suffocating like a fog that refused to lift. With a slight tremor in my hands, I raised the cup to my lips, feeling a wave of frustration wash over me at his keen observation. At last, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, "You didn't run this time." With a deep breath, I felt the weight of the moment settle in my throat. In the stillness of the moment, one realizes that there is nothing to escape from. A slow smirk crept across his face, hinting at secrets untold and mischief brewing beneath the surface. "Are you truly certain of that?" In that moment, I felt a deep urge to bring the curtain down on this perilous game, to silence the chaos that had enveloped us. And then, with a sudden shift, he stirred from his stillness. It was but a fleeting moment, a gentle whisper of presence that brushed past me. His hand brushed against my waist, a gentle touch, as he leaned toward the coffee pot. It was but the faintest brush, a whisper of contact that might have been mere happenstance. Yet it was not to be. It enveloped me, a presence that lingered in every corner of my being. Heat surged within me, an uncontrollable force that swept through my being like a tempest, leaving me powerless in its wake. In that moment, a sense of urgency washed over me, compelling me to escape. I had to create space, to put miles between us, lest I succumb to the temptation of recklessness. Yet, just as I was about to take my leave, he drew nearer, his breath brushing softly against my skin, a whisper of intimacy lingering in the air. "You keep insisting that this can't come to pass," he whispered, his voice low and contemplative. "Yet, you never utter a word about not wanting it to." In hindsight, I realize I ought to have turned it down. In that moment, I should have turned and walked away, leaving the shadows behind me. Yet I chose not to. There I stood, heart racing like a drum, poised in anticipation, yearning for something, anything, to shatter the stillness of that moment. And so it came to pass. With a mighty roar, the thunder clashed, sending tremors through the very glass of the windows, as if the heavens themselves were stirring in a tempest. As the power flickered, shadows danced across the walls, casting the room into a realm of dim light. Once again, the tempest that had raged through the night made its presence known. With a weight that pressed down upon him, a storm brewed within, fueled by a simmering rage. And thus, he too had embarked on that journey. As his fingers gently wrapped around my wrist, a shiver of anticipation danced through the air. In the stillness of the moment, a question lingered, unspoken yet profound. I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. As he drew me nearer, a gasp escaped my lips, caught in the moment's enchantment. His grip was steady, a balance of strength and gentleness. In that moment, he presented me with a choice, a fork in the road that could lead to untold adventures or unforeseen consequences. In that pivotal moment, a final opportunity lay before them, a chance to halt the unfolding events before the point of no return was crossed. In that fleeting moment when his lips met mine, I understood that all the justifications I had clung to would vanish like mist in the morning sun. The time for pretense has come to an end. This would indeed be true. Yet as his lips met mine, gentle at first, then filled with a growing desire, I found myself unable to pull away. With a gentle inclination, I drew closer. In that moment, I surrendered to the unfolding of events. Between us, the taste of coffee danced, warm and intoxicating, weaving a spell that held us in its embrace. His hands gently grasped my waist, drawing me close to him, our bodies meeting in a moment of undeniable connection. As I surrendered to the warmth of his embrace, I found myself enveloped in a moment I had long sought to evade, yet here it was, undeniable and consuming. In that moment, the weight of right and wrong slipped away from me like a forgotten dream. In that moment, I felt a thrill, unbothered by the fact that we were stepping into a realm from which there was no return. In that moment, a spark ignited within me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. I was alive, truly alive. In the days that unfolded, time seemed to weave a tapestry of fleeting encounters and soft-spoken secrets. In the quiet moments, where time seemed to pause, each glance and every tender touch transformed into a cherished secret, a bond woven tightly between us, hidden away from the world beyond those closed doors. In the depths of my mind, I whispered to myself that guilt should wash over me like a relentless tide, that regret should pull me under its heavy weight. Yet, amidst those swirling thoughts, there lingered a fierce hunger, a yearning that would not be silenced. His gaze held a power that ignited my skin, as if he possessed the ability to pierce through the very fabric of every deceit I had ever woven. And perhaps, just perhaps, he held the power to do so. Perhaps that was the very reason I found myself unable to break free. In a realm of his own, my husband wandered, lost in the labyrinth of his work, ensnared by the endless cycle of meetings, immersed in a world that seemed to exist apart from mine. He remained oblivious to the way I tarried just a moment too long in the hallway as my stepson strolled past. He remained unaware of the way my breath caught in my throat as our fingers danced lightly across the surface of the dinner table. Yet, he observed. In every instance, without fail. And he made sure it lingered in my memory forever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the sky, my husband prepared to embark on a journey for work. In the span of 3 fleeting days. In that fleeting moment, the air thickened with an unspoken weight, the tension between us swelling to a point where it felt as if it could shatter the very silence that surrounded us. In the quiet corners of my mind, I made a promise to myself, a vow to maintain my distance. With a heavy heart, I made a solemn vow to myself, promising that I would never allow such a thing to unfold once more. Yet, in that stillness, I caught the sound of his footsteps echoing softly outside my bedroom door. A gentle rap echoed through the stillness. In hindsight, perhaps it was a choice best left unmade. Yet I did. In that moment, he stood there, with shadows dancing across his face, weaving tales of mystery and intrigue. His expression was a mystery, a veil that concealed the thoughts swirling within. In the stillness that enveloped us, silence stretched between us like a vast, uncharted expanse where words dared not tread. In that moment, the air around us felt heavy, alive with the unspoken words that lingered just beyond our lips. With a gentle push, he entered the room, the door softly clicking shut behind him. "You've been avoiding me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. With a deep breath, I felt the weight of the moment settle in my throat. But we are both aware of the reasons that lie beneath the surface, are we not? A slow smirk crept across his face, like the first light of dawn breaking through the darkness. Do we truly? With a heavy heart, I averted my gaze, my fingers clutching the edge of the dresser as if it were my only anchor in that moment. Something feels amiss. But tell me, why does it seem that way? As he spoke, a chill danced along my spine, weaving through the air like an unseen specter. In that moment, I felt the urge to contest his words, to declare him mistaken, yet deep down, I knew the reality was different. There was a time when I found it hard to accept the truth of it all. As his hand extended towards me, I found myself unable to pull away. His hands, like a gentle fire, caressed my skin with warmth. His touch was a blend of the known and the exhilaratingly fresh, igniting a spark that danced between comfort and excitement. In the depths of my mind, a whisper urged me to create distance, to sever the ties before they could entwine any deeper. But then, as if drawn by an unseen force, his lips met mine, and in that moment, all reason faded away into the ether. As the first light of dawn crept into the world, I found myself awake, the heaviness of our actions wrapping around me like a thick mist. Shame should have crept into my heart. Regret should have been my companion in that moment. Yet, my mind was consumed by the memory of his gaze, a look that made me feel as though I was the sole treasure in a vast universe. With haste and silence, I adorned myself, taking great care to ensure he remained undisturbed in his slumber. In the hush of dawn, the house lay in quiet repose, with the gentle light of morning stretching its fingers to weave long shadows that danced across the floor. In that moment, a deep yearning for fresh air enveloped me. In that moment, I found myself yearning for a breath of fresh air, a sanctuary away from the chaos that surrounded me. Yet, as I ventured into the hallway, a sudden stillness enveloped me. At the foot of the staircase, my husband lingered, a suitcase clutched tightly in his hand, as if it held the weight of unspoken farewells. His expression was a mystery, a veil of thoughts hidden beneath the surface. He had not been expected to return just yet. In that fleeting moment, time seemed to stand still, and my heart, as if caught in a web of surprise, ceased its rhythmic dance. For what felt like an eternity, we locked eyes, each heartbeat echoing the fear that hung thick in the air between us. His eyes drifted away from me, drawn to the slightly ajar bedroom door that loomed in the shadows behind. Without the need to glance back, I sensed the weight of his gaze and the wonder it held. In that moment, the stillness enveloped us, heavy and profound, as if the world had paused to listen to the unspoken words lingering in the air. At long last, he uttered a word, his voice hauntingly serene. It crossed my mind, indeed. With a quiet resolve, he pivoted on his heel and began to stride into the distance. As the hours slipped away, they drifted by in a fog, each moment blending into the next. Anticipation hung in the air, thick and heavy, as I braced myself for the thunderous cries, the pointed fingers, and the impending eruption of emotions. Yet it remained elusive, never arriving as hoped. Instead, my husband glided through the house like a whisper of the past. His silence hung in the air, a heavy shroud that felt more unsettling than any storm of words could ever unleash. He averted his gaze, as if the weight of the world rested upon his shoulders. He remained silent, his words lost in the air between us. And in the depths of that moment, he bore a countenance that revealed no hint of surprise. It seemed as though he had carried the knowledge within him from the very beginning. On that fateful night, I stumbled upon him in his study, a glass of whiskey cradled in his hand, the flickering candlelight casting shadows that danced across the walls. His eyes were drawn to a far-off place, a realm just beyond the window's frame. As I stood in the doorway, a wave of uncertainty washed over me, leaving my words tangled in the silence. Regret echoed within me, leaving a void that seemed unfillable. It was not a falsehood that held any weight. And in that moment, I chose silence. After what felt like an eternity, he finally broke the silence, his gaze averted from mine. What is the duration of this journey? In that moment, the question lingered like a whisper, suspended in the space that separated us. Rich with meaning, laden with unspoken truths. With a deep breath, I felt the weight of the moment settle in my throat. It holds no significance. A laugh tinged with bitterness. It seems that it does not indeed. At long last, he pivoted to meet my gaze. His expression was a mystery, a veil that concealed the thoughts and emotions swirling within. Do you hold him dear to your heart? Suddenly, the question emerged from the shadows, catching me unprepared and leaving me momentarily speechless. I parted my lips, only to seal them once more. In the depths of my mind, a whisper echoed, revealing a simple yet profound reality. I was lost in uncertainty. Yet, the mere act of pondering it spoke volumes in itself. His eyes deepened with shadows, a hint of resignation dancing fleetingly across his features. I understand. With a measured grace, he placed the glass upon the table, each movement steeped in intention. Then, without uttering a single word, he glided past me, leaving a silence that lingered in the air. In that moment, I chose not to intervene. As dawn broke, a curious emptiness lingered in the room. His suitcase had vanished without a trace. There was no note to be found. Once upon a time, there was a moment that needed no words, a silence that spoke volumes in its stillness. In that moment, there was nothing but silence. In the stillness of the empty foyer, I found myself enveloped by the heavy burden of my actions, as if an unseen force bore down upon me. Relief should have washed over me like a gentle tide, soothing my weary soul. In that moment, I ought to have embraced the sweet sensation of liberation. Yet, within me, there lingered only a profound emptiness. And so, a week slipped quietly by. And then there were two. In the quiet of our shared space, my stepson and I navigated our days like two ships passing in the night, the air thick with an unfamiliar tension, a whisper of uncertainty weaving through our interactions. On a quiet evening, I stumbled upon him in the kitchen, gazing thoughtfully out the window. His expression was a mystery, a veil that concealed the thoughts swirling within. With a moment's pause, I took a step forward, drawn by an unseen force. And so, the question lingers in the air, a whisper of uncertainty. What unfolds next in this tale? With a gentle whisper, I inquired. He paused, the silence stretching between them like a taut string, before finally finding his words. At last, he shifted his focus toward me, and in that moment, his eyes held a veil of caution. In the depths of uncertainty, a question lingers, echoing in the silence. I don't know. His voice carried a truth that took me by surprise. In that moment, as the shadows danced around us, I caught a glimpse of something fragile in his gaze, a reflection of the doubt that lingered within my own heart. In that moment, we found ourselves enveloped in a heavy silence, the unspoken words hanging like a thick fog between us, each breath laden with the weight of all that remained unshared. In that moment, he extended his hand towards mine, a gentle and deliberate gesture that seemed to linger in the air. I allowed him to take it, for in the depths of my heart, amidst the swirling chaos of guilt and the weight of our choices, I found myself tethered, unable to turn my back on the tangled web we had woven.